2024 general elections, down from the 79% participation recorded in the 2020 elections and 69% 4 years earlier. The observer group has described the process as mostly peaceful despite some notable challenges. These incidents include intimidation, violence, vote buying, unauthorized access to polling stations, and breaches of voting and counting procedures. Speaking at a press briefing on Sunday, Chairperson of CODEO Advisor Board, Reverend Dr. Fred Degbe, disclosed that 228 incidents of election-related malpractices were documented nationwide.
Other violent incidents also reportedly took place at collation centers in constituencies such as the Utusenya East, Alfano North, Ablekuma West, Okankwe South, Alfano, and Damongo. CODEO noted other violations at constituency collation centers, such as assaults against poll officials and destruction of electoral materials. Some of these incidents took place in constituencies such as Ekwetia, Jaman North, Daboya, Mankarigu, Okankwe Central, Tano South, Karachi West, and Elembele. CODEO notes that in some of these reported cases, election officials and security agents were able to swiftly resolve the issues, while in others, investigations have commenced. Commendation and acknowledgement. CODEO commends Ghanaians, the Electoral Commission, the Election Security Task Force, the media, political parties and candidates, domestic and international observers, and all Ghanaians for the generally peaceful conduct of the polls. CODEO further commends the early concession of defeat by the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. CODEO reminds all stakeholders that the process is still ongoing. Therefore, they should allow the Electoral Commission to conclude and formally declare results for both elections. While election day procedures were in line with the legal framework, CODEO remains concerned with the trend of voter inducement observed during the campaign period and through election day, which undermines the ability of Ghanaians to freely express their choice in the ballot box.
Chairperson of CODEO Advisor Board, Reverend Dr. Fred Degbe.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The Nigerian government has confirmed the death of 21 civilians in a terrorist attack in the Tillaberi region, located in the west of the country. The attack occurred on Thursday, targeting a public transport vehicle ambushed by armed individuals. Ogi Obierika has more in these details.
According to a statement from the Nigerian Armed Forces, the attack was carried out by armed men on motorcycles. They targeted a public transport vehicle traveling between Terra and Bankilare, close to Niger's border with Burkina Faso. The attack resulted in a heavy toll with at least 21 fatalities. This incident comes amidst a large-scale military operation by Niger's defense and security forces to neutralize terrorist groups spreading fear and instability in the region. The Tillaberi region, plagued by years of insecurity, has become a focal point of conflict between law enforcement and terrorist groups. These groups exploit the porous borders in the area to launch their operations. The Nigerian government has expressed outrage over the massacre and vowed to strengthen security measures to protect local communities. In recent months, civil society organizations in the Tillaberi region have repeatedly urged authorities to enhance security in the area.
Ogi Obierika with the details of our correspondent in Niamey, Mutala Zuberu's reports. In Chad, the campaign for legislative, municipal and provincial election is in full swing. It officially began on Saturday, giving candidates 21 days to convince voters. These elections on December 29 marks the final phase of the transition following the presidential election a few months ago. In the lead up to these rare elections, political parties have ramped up mobilization efforts. While several parties have chosen to boycott the elections, the Patriotic Salvation Movement (MPS), the party of the late President Idris Deby, held a significant rally on the campaign opening day. The event took place at the Paris Congo Stadium in N'Djamena, where the MPs presented nearly 3,000 candidates for the legislative, municipal and provincial seats. Despite the strong showing by the ruling party, the campaign has been relatively quiet in the capital. 15 opposition parties have decided to boycott the elections, claiming they are undemocratic. This is the first time Chad is holding legislative, provincial and municipal elections simultaneously. The last legislative election in the country took place in 2011. Elsewhere, senators in Côte d'Ivoire's Economic and Financial Affairs Commission approved the draft finance law for the 2025 state budget over the weekend. The budget is estimated to be over 15 billion CFA francs. For 5 days, various ministries presented their plans for 2025 to the senators. Abdullahi Hassan reports.
The senators unanimously adopted the budget proposal, which totals just over 15 trillion CFA francs, an 11.8% increase from the 2024 budget of just over 13 trillion CFA francs. The Ivorian Minister of Budget expressed optimism during the vote, stating that Côte d'Ivoire's economic growth is expected to remain strong with a projected growth rate of 6.3%. Additionally, Adama Coulibaly explained that the inflation rate will be 3.7%, a decrease from 4% in 2024. Despite frequent criticism from the opposition about excessive debt, the Ivorian government reassured the public, with the Minister of Budget emphasizing ongoing efforts to increase external revenue mobilization. This strategy aims to control spending while also strengthening the sustainability of public debt. In addition to the budget, the 2025 Fiscal Annex proposal was also discussed. The document, which includes 42 articles, focuses on 4 main areas: expanding the tax base, combating international tax evasion and fraud, adopting measures to improve business competitiveness, and rationalizing and simplifying the tax system, along with implementing technical measures. According to Finance and Budget Minister Adama Coulibaly, these reforms aim to boost Côte d'Ivoire's ability to mobilize public resources while supporting the private sector and improving its competitiveness.
Abdullahi Hassan with a report by WAD House Abenade in Abidjan. You are still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's Electoral Commission EC calls for patience in the wake of heightened demands to declare official results. The Nigerian government confirms at least 21 deaths in the terrorist attack in the Tillaberi region. And the Ivorian Economic and Financial Affairs Commission approves a 15 billion CFA francs state budget for 2025. Still ahead in the news, the Liberian Ministry of Agriculture announces plan to install harvest hubs in 5 counties to improve food securities. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's take you to the Gambia now, where a landmark convention was signed on the 11th or Heads of State and Government Summit at the Gambia River Development Organization (OMVG). The agreement in Banjul over the weekend covered the legal status of the Kayanga-Geba River, the legal status of the Koliba-Kurba rivers, and the terms and conditions of financing the OMVG Common Works. This marks a significant step by countries of West Africa to sustainably manage shared resources. WAD House Sankole Janko has more in this report.
The one-day summit was attended by President Adama Barrow, Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, top officials from Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. The main objective of this meeting among leaders from these 4 West African countries is to renew the leadership of the the OMVG highest decision-making bodies and the management of the Sambangalo Dam and the power transmission network. President Barrow is the chairman of OMVG.
Despite our encouraging achievements, it is worth recalling that the higher organs of our organization do not meet regularly. Among other possible consequences, this state of affairs can hinder the operations of the OMVG, especially as regards the establishment of the Sambangalo Energy and Transport Network Management Company.
Saturday's high-profile convergence is envisaged to witness the signing of 3 consensual crucial conventions. First, the Convention on Legal Status of the Kayanga-Geba Rivers aimed to clarify territorial boundaries and ensure equitable water usage between member states. The Convention on Legal Status of the Koliba Kurubala Rivers and the Convention on Financing OMVG Common Works established clear terms and conditions for funding shared infrastructure projects. President Barrow again.
With reference to the proposed agenda, it is scheduled that member states sign the Convention on the legal status of Kayanga-Geba and Kurubali rivers. Like the Gambia River, the 2 rivers should henceforth acquire the status of shared international rivers. Both are crucial natural resources we can leverage for shared socio-economic development.
Founded in 1978, OMVG plays a crucial role in promoting regional integration and addressing the shared challenges of energy access, agriculture, environmental conservation, and socio-economic development.
That's Sankole Janko. Liberia's Agriculture Ministry is urging citizens to adopt subsistence farming to boost food security. The call was made at the National Agricultural Fair 2024 held in Kakata, Magibi County, under the theme Promoting Agriculture for Food Security, Nutrition and Sustainable Development. The event brought together farmers, government officials, international partners, and agricultural stakeholders to celebrate Liberia's agricultural sector and outline strategies for its transformation. WAD House Grace Joshua in Monrovia completes the story.
Speaking at the program, Minister Alexander Natwa emphasized the role of agriculture in driving Liberia's socio-economic progress and announced the construction of 5 agricultural hubs in Nima, Bon, and Lofa counties. These hubs aim to empower farmers, enhance productions, and boost the economy.
Agriculture sustains our communities, nourishes our families, and drive our economy. Across our country, farmers, 75% of which are women, ensuring that our nation is fed and that livelihoods are created. Recognizing their invaluable contribution to achieve food security and sufficiency, we have embraced, or we must embrace mechanization, starting with modernization of our farming system.
President Joseph Boakai, speaking at the event, reaffirmed his commitment to supporting local farmers. He highlighted Liberia's fertile soil, abundant resources, and industrious people, emphasizing that it is time for Liberia to unite and leverage these assets to achieve self-sufficiency and build an agriculture-driven economy. As food imports remain a major challenge to Liberia's food security, stakeholders and international partners are urging the government to take decisive steps towards realizing the shared vision of a sustainable agriculture sector. For West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Grace Joshua in Monrovia.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Today's press review takes us to Abuja, Nigeria's capital, where Usman Umar says some dailies report that economic reforms, Tinubu still in Nigeria's goodwill, will be president till 2031.
Welcome to the press review segment from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We begin with Nigerian News Direct. It's leading with this story. Economic reforms. Tinubu still in Nigeria's goodwill, will be president till 2031. This is according to George Akume, the secretary to the government of the Federation. We move quickly to the Guardian newspaper that says tax reform bills. States eye 180% hike in value-added tax earnings amid push for fiscal federalism. This, of course, has been a contentious issue both in public discourse and at the National Assembly. You have failed workers, Labour group flays NLC, that is Nigeria Labour Congress, and Trade Union Congress. This has to do with their failure to be able to push for full implementation of the approved new national minimum wage across a number of states in the Federation. We move quickly to Leadership newspaper that is leading with this story. Late budget presentation alters January to December cycle. This is on page 4. It has this rider. There is fear committees may not do a thorough job. Another rider, proper ministries, department and agencies appearance uncertain. And then 2024 budget may be given a leeway. This is according to the Senate. Delay not linked to tax bills. This is according to the Senate. Of course, responding to fears that the delay in the appropriation for 2025 is as a result of the ongoing controversy over the tax reform bills before the National Assembly. And finally, we go to Nigerian Tribune newspaper, which is leading with this political story. PDP chair, pro-Damagum forces plan takeover of board of trustees. Of course, the People's Democratic Party, the main opposition party, political party in Nigeria, has been facing its own internal wrangling as far as the leadership of the party is concerned. Damagum, the erstwhile national chairman of the party, of course, is not taking it lightly after being ousted from office. He is planning, according to this report, a takeover of the board of trustees of the party. And this is the much we have for you this afternoon on the press review segment. It's now back to you in the studios.
It's time for the guest interview.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
With a landslide victory for the opposition National Democratic Congress, the NDC, in the just ended December 7 polls, Executive Director of the Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, believes the win will put much pressure on the former president to deliver good governance while improving on the cost of living of Ghanaians, particularly with the introduction of the 24-hour economic policy. Though the Electoral Commission EC is yet to announce the final result, Musa Dankwa believes the margin of defeat in the provisional result collated so far to the incumbent suggests growth in Ghana's democracy and the supremacy of the will of the people. Musa Dankwa is our guest.
I think overall it's been free and fair, with the exception of a few skirmishes here and there that cost the lives of 3 people or so, yet to be confirmed. But we can say that 2 people have been killed, which is very, very unfortunate. With regards to the outcomes for the parliamentary, really, it is not far from what we expected. But I think the MPP has performed abysmally worse than we thought in the surveys that we did, which means that in the number of seats we thought it was too close to call, they lost all of them. With regards to the presidential, it's also very, very overwhelming in the sense that we were expecting the best case for Bawumia to win at least 5 regions. But for now, what we are seeing, I think, is going to lose 13 regions, which means Mahama will win about 13 regions in the country. And the size of the win doesn't it's not too far from what we said he was going to do. In our projections in the last week before the vote, we gave Mahama around 54%. Currently, he's doing around 56% per the tally.
In the history of Ghana's politics, what does this margin of win mean to the elections and to the country's willingness for change?
It's very massive. If you take away 1992, the first elections Ghana had under the new republic, I think this will be one of the worst since that election. In fact, if you look at from 1992, where we had what we call the transparent ballot boxes, where people could see what's in the bag and so on and so forth, this will be the worst election for any sitting government in history to have suffered.
Does this victory put pressure on Mahama while looking at the fact that the country's current socioeconomic situation seems to be in a dire situation? Does this put any pressure on John Dramani Mahama to really deliver and then change the fortunes of the country, as they say in their manifesto?
It put pressure on him, yes, I agree with you. But I don't think Ghana expects him to transform the country in 4 years. My suspicion is that they want him to stabilize things and to improve the governance and make democracy more attractive. If you look at the turnout, what we saw recently is woefully below any level we've seen in recent history. And that is because of the youth, and many voters did not take part in the vote because of lack of trust and confidence in the political system. And I believe he can rebuild that kind of trust and confidence so that we can have larger participation, and that will give us some more stability going forward. But I think the expectation on him is to stabilize things, not to make things worse. As to what he can achieve, I don't think there will be too much pressure on him to deliver too much.
What are some of the key critical areas that Ghanaians are looking for an improvement in his governance?
First is the cost of living crisis. That is why the government lost. So if you come to power and you can address that, then eventually what have they done? So I would expect him to put a lot of effort and dedicate resources to address the cost of living crisis. And that, I don't know what he's going to do in the short or medium term, but that is what he must focus on. And then the overall economy, which has to be improved and make sure that growth returns at a very good level. And I think this will be top two issues for him to deal with in the first year or so of his presidency.
On matters of corruption, how would you want him to tackle, particularly as they are bent on Operation Recover or the loot?
I think Ghanaians want him to do that. And if you listen to people, civil society organizations, and even voters sometimes, they want him to recover any stolen asset. And there's a lot of that, people believe that there's a lot of stolen cash around the system, and that they want the government to retrieve money stolen from the people. So that will also be a key for him to implement. As to whether it will take all his time, he must make sure that he get the balance right, so that he doesn't devote too much time in recovering things that may not be there.
Finally, under some few seconds, do you see a smooth transition happening?
Absolutely. Ghana had the experience of smooth transition since the Fourth Republic. The Bawumia has considered yesterday, and we expect him to cooperate with the transition team and to get the transition in order. I don't expect any turbulence before transfer of power.
Executive Director with the Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa. Time for sports with Sankule Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Malian side Joliba AC were held to a goalless draw in their second Group D encounter of the CAF Champions League on Sunday at the Stade de 26 Mars in Mali. Following a 4-0 defeat in their opener, the Malian side would be relieved with a draw, despite failing to get the maximum points. In the Confederation Cup, the defending champions Zamalek were held to a 2-2 draw against former African champions and Nigerian giants Enyimba in Group D. Elsewhere, Stade Malien and Desportivo Luanda Souls shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw in Sunday's first match in Africa's second-tier club competition. RS Berkane maintained their perfect start in Group B with a clinical performance, beating South African debutants Stellenbosch 3-1 at the Moses Madiba Stadium, according to CAF official website. In Group C, a tactical showdown at the Francistown Stadium, where Orapa United and ASEC Mimosas played out a 0-0 draw. The result keeps ASEC top of group standings with 4 points, while Orapa remains winless but earns their first point of the campaign. At the Estadio 11 de Novembro in Angola, Stade Malien of Mali and Desportivo Luanda Soul produced a thrilling second-half display to 1-1 draw. Siaka Jabi opened the scoring for the Malian side in the 69th minute, with well-taken strike only for Danielson to equalize for the Angolans 5 minutes later with a towering header from a corner. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we have come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek Maududio for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platform X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship program, World Body, with Ogi Obiarika, and the second of 2 series production on World AIDS Day. Do also join us at the top of the hour of the second edition of Newslink in French Info Chez Vous. I am Christopher Techo. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County. Wakata FM Radio, Banga, Liberia. Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.